Live your life, boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Conspiracy Farm, where we don't start the conspiracies, we just add the water. And now, your host of the most state-of-the-art, most informed podcast on the interweb, I present to you Pat Miletich and Jeffrey Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for war?
Yeah, rear naked choke of Cocker Spaniel, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Bro.
Change the neighborhood up.
Conspiracy Farm. Go. Check it out.
All right, back again, 2 weeks in a row. Jeff, I mean, that's after a layoff of a few years. What's going on?
Well, no, I mean, we have come and gone a couple times in different iterations. It hasn't been years. We did one not too long ago, but yeah, 2 weeks. The odds of that, but hopefully we're going to keep that up, man.
So we're going to cover, we're just going to go through headlines and have fun with it. I mean, not necessarily make fun of all of it because a lot of it's very serious.
Sure.
Considering, our first headline where NPR talks about their correspondent is finally allowed into Gaza with what's actually left of Gaza, right?
Right.
They've leveled the entire, region. There's nothing left that I've seen, at least observably, in infrastructure or buildings that are even remotely livable, right?
Yeah, the artist formerly known as Gaza. Yeah, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And that's, of course, was by design. They've talked about that even years before October 7th, that they were planning on, just leveling it. And you can't build it back better unless you burn it down.
Yeah. So what are they gonna do with Gaza? Is that going to be another smart city?
Time will tell, but that's kind of what they're talking about. And not to jump around too much, but that Vision Jamaica 2030 or something like that, that was very similar plans as well, as creating this new sustainably developed smart city in Jamaica. But it sounds like that's what they're doing with Gaza. And again, I haven't drilled down too deep into this, but I think they've found, like, it's prime real estate, obviously beachfront property, but I heard there's some natural resources out in that region as well. So yeah, should be interesting.
Natural gas and oil, right?
Is that what I'm not 100% sure, but like in the case of Jamaica, I guess there's shit tons of, I think it's bauxite. But, it's not to get into the weather manipulation, all that other stuff, but, stranger things have happened in the world. But there is a plan that Vision Jamaica 2030. And again, obviously, we know about Agenda 21, just the emergence of these smart cities. So we'll see if that's what comes of Gaza, because it sounds like that's kind of the move that they're leaning into.
And so is it just me, or am I making an observation that a lot of people on the right in politics who play that game, at least a lot of the American citizens, are now becoming really, very skeptical about Israel and about a lot of the things that are going on and have gone on for quite a few years, of course. Does it seem like that a lot of people on the right are turning against Israel as well as the left?
And it's interesting you say that, because what was I listening to today? I think it was Jimmy Dore had one of our former guests, James Corbett, on, in this civil war within the right, Fuentes and Candace Owens versus Tucker Carlson, and like all this internal consternation that I think is interesting. It's interesting because I think it's definitely kind of WWE. I think there's some fabrication to this because, again, I'll repeat something we've always said. They create the groups and then they'll play the groups off against each other. Remember, I think it was before 2016. I'm like, whatever way they can divide us, they're going to divide us. And people like to say divide and conquer. I take an exception to that. I think it's more of a divide and control. Because as long as we're fighting with each other, we're not worrying about this architecture of the oligarchy up top that is pitting us against each other. And so I think, what we're seeing within the right, the civil wars, Trump and Musk are fighting, Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro break up, Tucker Carlson breaking up with, Fox News. But I think a lot of this stuff is orchestrated. These quote unquote civil wars, these spats between the right, Tucker and Candace Owens and Turning Point and Trump. I think all of this is definitely fabricated to keep keep us fighting with each other. and not paying attention to the upper architecture that's continuing to do what it does.
Yeah, and well, I mean, look, the way that I look at it is this: is that the entities that run the planet control our politicians, control, global policies, of course, global monetary systems, all of it. I mean, it seems like, from my observation and real study of history, seeing through a lot of the fog of the miseducation that we received as kids and going through school, that they will sacrifice virtually all humanity. What is Israel, whatever that represents for people in the Middle East today. They'll sacrifice the entire Middle East, which they've basically already done. They'll sacrifice Europe, the United States, which they're seemingly in the process of doing, with the implosions and the fact that they funded the buildup of massive military power in America and some in Europe, of course, and Russia and China, only to invade and destroy civilizations in the Middle East. And then those same entities are funding, again, the reverse invasions of Europe and the United States.
Yes.
And here you've got, Americans arguing over ICE agents and shooting at ICE agents and defending illegals and at a human level, instead of looking again under the surface and going, oh, it's the bankers. It's
without a doubt. When
it's the monetary system. Yeah,
who's able to piss in whose bathroom, etc. Yeah, it's all very confetti to the larger party, which, like you're saying, the banking of of international settlements, etc. And I think it's a great point that you bring up, because I think Catherine Austin Fitts talked about how the bankers wanted Trump in there because he's the one who's going to be able to sell the technocracy better than anybody else. Because, of course, Trump can do no wrong. And as he begins to lean into, he's already doing it, National Guard, federalization of the police, and troops on the ground kind of thing, everyone's just clapping, because he's the solution to the problem they allowed to proliferate with crime, with the summer of love, with immigration. So he's now the savior. And even, if Biden or Obama or anybody on the left was to propose a digital ID and a national ID, and that certain things that are going to be coming from this administration, we never would have accepted it. But Trump, being the great salesman that he is, and he can do no wrong, even our digital enslavement, these motherfuckers are going to rationalize is a part of making America great again. And not to jump too, but I think the same thing is kind of going on with this globalist, with technocracy coming. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. So in countries like Burkina Faso in Africa, you have this African guy who's Ibrahim Traore, I think his name is. He's supposedly kicking out the French, kicking out the West. We are now, masters of our own domain, when all of his infrastructure, all of his digital ID, biometric ID is made by globalist powers. China pretty much engineered his biometric new passport. You have not the IMF now, but the World Bank funding his infrastructure. But the thing is, I told my friend this, it's the same way kind of Obama was that Trojan horse. The only way you could sell certain things is through one of their own, if you will. And so that's kind of Ibrahim Traore's well, selling these African nations technocracy, but while under the guise of, selling them supposedly freedom under the guise of, but you know what I'm saying. But that's, I think what Trump's doing the same thing. He's that Trojan horse.
He's the salesman.
Yes.
So it's the way I look at, and, I'm sorry to hurt people's feelings, but let's just be honest. I'll just start with saying, in 2016, you remember I was hopeful. Because I had signed off on politics technically by then anyway, and you certainly had as well. But we were covering things, and I was going, well, hold on a second. This guy's never been a politician. There might actually be hope here. And you're going, yeah, whatever, And so as it progressed, I kept trying to hold on to a little bit of hope.
Absolutely.
But as things continued to, Operation Warp Speed and, all the things that started going on, you and I would have conversations behind the scenes, and you're like, dude, You got to wake up, Pat. Like this is not. There is no hope with this guy.
When it was no slight against you, I had known, like, the cats he was playing with. Like I said back in the day, he's a real estate tycoon in New York. You don't pour a drop of fucking cement without organized crime. And he's rolling with cats like Roy Cohn, Wilbur Ross, who became his commerce secretary, who was the head of the Bank of Cyprus and part of funneling all kinds of shady money, and the Rothschilds bailing him out with the Taj Mahal. I knew he was not an organic cat.
Yeah, he's a slave. He's a slave, right? I mean, that's
he's like the Michelin man that sells Michelin tires. Like, he's the brand, he's the face of the brand, and he's a great fucking salesman, dude. And honestly, it's kind of, he's hilarious. He's comedy gold. Some of his Oval Office meetings and cabinet meetings, when he's done, I'm waiting for fucking Martin Lawrence to come out at the Apollo Theater and announce the next comic. Because I'm like, this brood's working blue. He's dropping F-bombs in Oval Office meetings. I'm like, I love that shit, but it's again still part of the distraction.
Meanwhile, the demise of mankind is happening.
Yes, thank you.
So, but I look at almost the Trump administration as like a pharmaceutical commercial. While they're describing the side effects of prolapsed bowels and aneurysms.
Say it again. Prolapse what?
Prolapsed bowels.
Oh, okay.
Your bowels falling out of your ass, basically.
Yeah, okay. So I thought you were saying. I'm making sure.
I mean,
clarifying.
That's literally what's happening to America, is what I'm saying. But the videos that they give you during a pharmaceutical commercial, while describing these horrendous side effects that are taking place or can take place, they're showing people at a picnic all laughing and smiling, playing catch with a ball, and all this other stuff. So what I'm saying is, Trump is selling the video portion of a pharmaceutical commercial. Meanwhile, what's happening are the side effects of poisoning the water, poisoning the well, basically, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
That would be my best way of describing what's happening, because America's not becoming great again. It's really not. I'm sorry.
And it's weird. I've never been, had a dog in the fight necessarily, but it's like the Olympic level mental gymnastics that Trump supporters do to rationalize how he is somehow making America great again. I want the Nobel Peace Prize because I stopped all these fucking wars. Meanwhile, I'm blowing up shit in Venezuela. I'm talking about doing shit in Nigeria now. And I mean, it's just like, I'm still funding Ukraine. Like, make this make sense, bro.
Yeah. Here it is Trump has, he has facilitated a peace deal and a ceasefire between Gaza and Israel. Meanwhile, well, who was left in Gaza to negotiate peace with?
Well, yeah, the Hamas leadership was pretty much decimated. But yeah, like within days,
Hamas.
Within days, he blows up whatever the fuck that was a few days ago, killed like 100 people, 40 of them children. I mean, it's just like, really? I guess this peace treaty isn't really worth the paper it was written on, or the ceasefire, or whatever it is. But
yeah, right. So anyway, yeah, it's not hard to say you negotiated peace when one side is doing all the bombing.
It's not funny. No, absolutely. And Trump now is on fucking Nigerians stop killing fucking Christians, dude. Israel and the IDF was blowing up churches and killing Christians in Israel. What's the clapback on that? More money? We give them more money. There's no threat of going over there, taking out their government, even though they're killing Christians. But yet his rationale now talking about going into Nigeria, they're killing Christians.
Right.
I think it makes sense.
Well, it's the whole biblical thing of that we must stand by Israel. And really, what is Israel? Israel was created through,
the Balfour Declaration.
The Balfour Declaration and Rothschild money. So it's really not, we have to be honest. I mean, come on. I've read the Bible.
I've
read the Bible numerous times.
And I mean, just a couple of exceptions I have with the just blind elite. And again, it's not, I don't give a fuck. I'm not anti-Semitic. I have no issue like that. I can criticize a foreign government and a government's policy without being anti the people. But it's like, I find it interesting, like the blind allegiance for Christians with Israel when they reject the Messiah, which is just very, very fascinating to me. Like they reject your Christians. They reject your boy. And
it's
not only that,
it is the tip of Mount Everest of Stockholm syndromes on the planet.
Well, and not only do they reject him as the Christ and as the Messiah, that he's like one of the goy, right? And he like, I forget how they describe Jesus,
He's
but it's
burning in feces in hell.
that's what I'm saying. How are the blind leaders and the notion that like the Israel in the Bible from 2,000 years ago is the same Israel we're talking about that was made in 1947.
It's a little,
What?
yeah, it's a little odd. It's a little odd.
The timeline's a little off there. But I mean, anyway.
So now, but we have to also say that, just the other day, and even during COVID and the lockdowns, you could see the government and the military and the law enforcement of Israel abusing massive numbers of Israeli citizens, right? So they're divided, right? They're divided,
Yeah.
on all of this stuff. And so, because there's massive numbers of Jews that 100% are just adamantly.
Oh, they dragged Netanyahu in fucking public. What was it? That was a couple weeks ago.
Well, they're just furious about Gaza. They're furious about Gaza.
Absolutely.
They're furious
and
about the violence and the policies and all of it. So we have to be very clear that the people of, for instance, China don't want war with us and don't want to destroy America. The people of Russia don't want war. They don't want to destroy. The people of Israel don't want war. They don't want nobody wants, none of the citizens of the world want destruction. We want to live our lives, and we want the trauma and fear-based conditioning to stop, period. Right?
Yeah. It's
And
always
so
these
everybody's
psychopathic leaders.
My
Yeah.
message to people is to just rise up past this shit and walk away. And there's a lot of different ways to leave a system, right? And there's ways to leave all the systems if you can. And many are doing it. Many are doing it.
Without a doubt.
And so
And we need to recognize that, though. I mean, people talk about this potential civil war. Your issue, let's disagree politically without being violently disagreeable. We have way more in common than we have different. So if we want to keep fighting each other, that's exactly what they want. The issue, I'm telling you, is not with someone who voted different than you. The issue should be with these freaking sociopaths who set this system up to keep us fighting each other while Trump, whatever, Epstein. Oh my God, we know it's real. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, this is a hoax. And the only people they were trafficking him to was himself. Meanwhile, Prince Edward, whoever the fuck, just got stripped of all his shit over in the UK because his role in this stuff. But it's just like, we're still making America great again, I guess.
yeah, so it's all just a clown show. But nonetheless, here's what I'm saying is, in Weimar Germany, they passed laws that you couldn't be anti-Semitic. And they're doing the same thing in America. And why are they doing that? In reality, what the controllers want, who are not Christian, they're not truly Muslim, and they're not Jewish. We know that they're not. They want division, they want destruction, and they want annihilation, right? That's what they got last time in World War II, when everybody fell for the game, right?
Right.
So
happens every time.
What I'm saying to people is just don't fall for the game. Don't fall into the emotional programming. Don't let them. And the more you remove yourself from the system by growing your own food, by becoming your own doctor, by knowing how to stay healthy, how to stay off of pharmaceuticals, how not to end up in a hospital emergency room 10 times in 1 year because you can't breathe, or because your digestive system is going sideways, or for any of these other reasons, panic attacks and all kinds of other stuff. Just remove yourself from the systems, and then you're not as vulnerable, right? Like I can't in any way, shape, or form explain it more clearly than the more systems you're in, the more vulnerable you are to all of their control mechanisms, right?
And it is our participation that allows this system to thrive. I mean, the more we can become aware of what's popping off, and like you said, become self-sufficient and kind of withdraw our certain participation in it, that's the only way it's going to go down.
Yeah.
I mean, one of many ways in that's going to go down. Something I wanted to ask you about, we're talking about headlines, because I just saw the other day, it was very fascinating that after years of drilling down on this and doubling down on this, Bill Gates has now pivoted away from climate change. and like in his meeting with Trump a few weeks ago, talking about he's more leaning into human health and growth and development and mRNA vaccines, which goes back to what you were talking about of how, we're almost rewriting our DNA and turning it not into humans. It's so fascinating. One of the episodes that I really enjoyed with you, obviously, and James Corbett, and I think it was Ricky Varandas from the Ripple Effect. It was basically a climate change conversation. It's obviously in our archives, but it's interesting the branding that took place. That originally was eugenics, then it moved into technocracy, and then that wasn't socially palatable. Then it moved into climate change, and then that became less socially palatable. Now Bill Gates moving into human health and development and rewriting basically DNA, when at the end of the day, it's still a war on human beings and humanity.
Well, in the Trump administration basically has, from what my understanding is environmental groups are furious because the Trump administration is basically allowing the chemical companies, which kind of have always controlled their own destiny for the most part, to kind of open the floodgates to do whatever the hell they want to do, right? So the people out there fighting for climate, whatever you call climate justice, meaning, hey, let's not spray 1 billion gallons or 1 billion acres of land with billions of gallons of toxic warfare chemicals, because ultimately, I was just talking, and I'm going to have him on here pretty soon, actually, a hazmat, one of the Midwest, I think he ran the Midwest division of hazmat, and he and I were on the phone the other day, and he was going through the list of the numerous train wrecks where toxic chemicals were spilled, or factories that were dumping massive amounts of chemicals and all kinds of other stuff that was going on, literally just openly into rivers and everything else, where he was, educated basically and told, do not, under any circumstance, tell the media the truth on this instance or this toxic chemical release or whatever. It's so. And then he dug into, which I'd already known, but he really got into the details of the conversion of Agent Orange into glyphosate. So a slight modification on the molecular structure, and boom, Agent Orange has been used, on everyone's yards and farms and,
Really?
Yeah, it's a derivative. The way he was explaining it was it has been molecularly altered to make it a little more palatable, and basically what it is a derivative of Agent Orange. So
which we know does horrible shit.
Yeah, there's a documentary on Vietnam and what it's done, what it did to the children then, and the lingering effects of the massive amounts of birth defects and illness and everything else that it's still causing. And American people can go to the hardware store and buy a 5-gallon jug of it and go spray their yard, right?
So back in the day, I mean, just to clarify, that Agent Orange was what they call like a defoliant, right, for the jungles of Vietnam, so you could easily see the enemy.
Yeah, deforestation. You just spray
that's what I thought.
Kill everything. Yeah. It just killed everything. Yeah, so the Viet Cong couldn't hide in the jungles and as efficiently, and,
right, and
things like that. So yeah,
so that's what they're spraying on our food today.
That's
a variation
of
that.
Dude, that's just one. Dicot is probably even worse. And Dicot is being sprayed on shorelines all over the place, in lakes and rivers, to kill what they call invasive weeds, right? And invasive weeds, best way to explain this without going into detail, because I've done massive amounts of research on just this category, is when you understand illness, say for instance in human beings, if I hit a population with atrazine or Dicot or glyphosate, it's going to manifest in different ways in the population depending on their genetics.
Right.
Okay. So some people get respiratory illness, some people get digestive, some people get, hormonal, where, Bobby wants to wear a dress all of a sudden, right? And it's not comical, but that's the different varying things that can happen through these different types of chemicals, right?
Now Roberta, no, but not Bobby anymore.
Right.
Roberta.
Right. Yeah. So they're out. Okay. So human beings manifest illnesses in different ways based on their genetics. And the toxicities and the nutrient deficiencies cause illness to show up. It's environmental, almost always environmental. Even allopathic medical experts will admit that the vast majority of all illness is environmental. So let's think of the human body and manifestations of illness. And then when we know soil, for instance, certain weeds grow to pull elements, particular elements that are missing out of the soil, out of the atmosphere. And then when they die, they put those minerals back in the soil. That's soil fixing itself. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say the word invasive species of plant, is the soil in Asia any different from the soil in America that's missing, for instance, iron, magnesium, and calcium? No, they're not. It's soil, right? So the fact that the weeds that they call weeds or invasive species, weeds grew in Asia and somehow the seeds got on a boat and ended up in America. And now we have those plants growing all over the place in America, whether they call them weeds, medicinal herbs, or whatever they want to call them. The soil, when missing those elements, are going to promote the growth of those invasive, what they call invasive species, in the soil or in the water, right? So if I, as the person who owns that soil, put the minerals back down with the microbes, then those invasive weeds, those invasive species, have no reason to grow there because there's nothing to fix. So what I'm saying is the way that mankind has been taught to look at things like an invasive species, a plant, it's not invasive at all. An illness is going to show up in Asia. Wasn't COVID global?
Yeah.
Was that an invasive species or illness for mankind? Do you understand the point I'm trying to get across here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying is, when they talk about invasive species or invasive illness, there's been an outbreak of Ebola in West Africa, and there's a guy that landed at Washington Dulles Airport who's showing signs of Ebola. It's like, it's a foreign illness.
It's just like it's nature doing nature shit. Same thing you were saying about lakes with E. coli in our region, up in the Iowa region.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So it's all bullshit. It's all fear-based. It's all trauma. It's all germ theory ridiculousness that's been funded by billions of dollars of miseducation by the chemical companies, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's all bullshit, So, and you and I have been at this long enough to know that everything's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Well, speaking of everything being bullshit and funded by some higher ups, what's your opinion on I forget his name, Mamdani, who the largest fucking city in America, New York City, is now ran by, I don't give a fuck that he's a Muslim, but this socialist backed, Soros backed cat. What are your thoughts on this, man? And is this like, I don't know if the mayor of London is like a Muslim or Indian, but it's like this, like,
he is. Yeah.
Is okay. But it's like, that's just not, it's interesting. It's very interesting. I'm all about an inclusive society, et cetera, et cetera. But to be the head of New York City and be this guy, I mean, granted, I know
I think it's hilarious. I think it's great because whether they actually voted for him or not, he's now the mayor of New York City. And here's all I'm saying is, when people go, but he's a socialist or he's a communist or whatever, when are people going to wake up and understand, okay, this takes me back to, again, the monetary system. So what is it that people don't understand, that it doesn't matter to the global bankers and the people that own and run the monetary system?
Right.
Do you think they care if it's a capitalist society, a communist, or a socialist society? Because, okay, under a so-called free society, we'll just say America, they're still loaning fake money and charging interest on the fake money, which is promissory or promised to them through the labor of Americans, right? The slavery of Americans, the citizen, the ens legis, fake fictitious corporations that are the American citizens, to their loyalty to the father corporation of the Central Bank of England and the Rothschilds and whatever else that entails. But what I'm saying is it doesn't matter to the bankers, and they don't care who wins. So when Americans talk about there's going to be a civil war, well, just remember the bankers don't care who wins. They're going to fund both sides, and whoever wins, they're still going to get their interest, whether it's from the government, whether it's from the citizen, or whether it's from the businesses. It doesn't matter to them. They're going to collect interest on a financial note, a monetary note that isn't real.
Yes.
It's all fictitious.
And that's something we've always talked about, global or capitalism, socialism, especially when they start throwing around terms like socialism and communism. For me, that's kind of just, I don't know. It's a precursor to what both sides are doing, which is globalism. Like you said, the oligarchs don't give a shit about which side's what. It's all leading to the same path, which is globalism. And like I said just a little bit ago, your boy Trump is selling us right down that same path to the same end. Digital IDs coming. I always used to say, China's the fucking model, man. Facial recognition, digital ID. Hey, I refuse to get the real ID to travel. Okay, cool. Let me do the retina scan then. Oh, they're slowly but surely still accumulating.
But you can deny those. You can deny those.
No, absolutely. But my point is, they're setting it up so you're not going to be able to function in our society unless you move the way we want to. That's why I think COVID and that whole thing was kind of a compliance exercise. What are these guys willing to give up to operate in society? Get your vaccine for something that's 99.9% survivable, but like you said, through that fear and trauma conditioning, people still went and did it. And I think we're going to see more of that. We're going to be, I think it was Ben Franklin, whoever, the shit we're willing to give up for our protection, if you will, and our freedom. It's got some interesting times ahead.
Yeah, and so the people who have legitimately removed themselves from the system. So think about this. So there's people out there that I know who have done this, and you and I interviewed a few of them that have removed themselves from the system, took possession of their slave, the fictitious corporation, all caps name, right?
Yes.
And put that in a trust, and then they become the trustee or the director of that trust. And so they own the slave. So now they're not in the system because they have pulled their slave out of the system. And so
pulled their slave.
Yeah, that's what it is.
No, I get it. You're right. You're 100% right.
Because when they technically, when they said they freed the slaves, that was actually enslaving all Americans. That's all that was. Right.
And that's that whole 14th Amendment business, right?
Right. 1871 and, all of that when they had to incorporate DC. This is all legit. This is all legit stuff. When people start to go, oh, that sovereign citizen stuff. Well, no. Sovereign citizens, by very definition, when you use the word citizen, you are throwing yourself back into their system, because citizen means ens legis in Latin, and Latin ens legis means fictitious corporation. Remember, I don't know, a decade ago or longer, when they said that an individual and a corporation are the same thing. Remember, that's why corporations could donate money to campaigns. Right.
The late Jordan Maxwell was really good at drilling down on this, on all of that, like the capital, all your names being all, like when you get your energy bill, it's not.
Yeah. And
first
so
capital.
And so what I'm saying is that the people who have done this properly through like a lot of research and proper teams of what they call non-barred attorney teams that know how to do this properly and have officially removed themselves from the system. So when a digital ID and all this other stuff starts, that trust will have a digital ID. You won't if you're removed from the system and you are a man of the land, not considered lost at sea or dead by the system, by the corporate systems. So then these people's trusts or nonprofit organizations or whatever they call them, those might be underneath the digital ID system, but the human being themselves who has removed themselves from the system and taken ownership of their slave is not part of the digital ID system, right? So they've freed themselves. So that's
And this freed person is still allowed to travel on federal roads, interstate, travel through the air.
you're not
through,
part of their you're not part of their system. They don't have jurisdiction over you.
right. So that your answer, yeah, you can still fly. You can still remove yourself from the system while still utilizing certain machinations, like I said, interstate, federal roads,
100%.
air travel.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
There's a lot to it. I mean, I know. I mean,
It's very complex. It's very.
It
complex.
is. I've been hip to this. I mean, not whatever. I've been hip
Yeah,
to
we've
this
been
kind
talking
of.
about this for a long time.
Well,
Right.
even when I was a kid, way back, and a friend of mine hit me up to this when I was like 18, 19, and dug deep into it. And it's kind of the shit that like Wesley Snipes got himself jammed up in. Like, I don't have to pay my taxes. You have to know how to dot your I's and cross your T's when you're doing this. You can't just say I'm not in the system anymore and it's a wrap. It is very complex.
Yes, and it's if you don't have the proper people doing it for you, you're playing with fire.
Without
really
a
are.
doubt.
And
Yeah.
so I'm not encouraging people to go do it. I would by all means research it and understand it.
Yeah, no, fuck yeah. Yes, no, almost like a vaccine. Make an informed decision. Don't just do it half cocked because it could get greasy for you real quick if you're not doing it right.
Right. Yep. So anyway, moving on.
I wanted to ask you about the Venezuela, man. I mean, is that we're making it seem like that we're blowing up these drugs. It's just so deliciously ironic for United States government and our intelligence agencies to say, "Oh, people are bringing in drugs." That's really been our game. That's what's been powering our black market economy is guns and drugs and people and people's body parts. So for them to be fucking talking shit about other people who are bringing drugs to this country is absolutely laughable because we are almost one of the biggest import. I mean, going back to Barry Seal, what's his name? Gary Webb. I mean, our intelligence agency has been fucking doing the drug thing for a long time. So they're making it seem like almost like the National Guard's here to fight crime and immigration, but we know there's a larger play with that. They're making it seem like they're going down there combating drugs coming into our country, but I've been hearing a lot about they're trying to build a South American Union, same way like a European Union or North American Union or an African Union. Venezuela, Colombia, Argentina supposedly spearheading this South American Union, and of course Venezuela is sitting on copious amounts of oil. What are your thoughts on these boats they're blowing up and whatever they're doing under the guise of fighting drugs? But it looks like they're about to topple some Venezuelan leadership at the same time.
Yeah, well, from my observation, all the videos I've seen and photos I've seen are boats that are like 15 feet long that have been hammered, by drone strikes or whatever. Maybe there's bigger boats carrying larger amounts of dope or whatever, but it's, as you kind of mentioned, is how dare you bring drugs into our country because that's our job. So we're going to blow you up.
You shortening up my pockets, baby. You cutting in on my game.
So, and the thing is the late Boone Cutler, great guy, who we interviewed. We had the opportunity to interview a couple times, and once with General Flynn.
Yeah,
where he and I had a conversation, and he was looking into situations where fentanyl was being brought in with foreign produce and that they were then able to sell the produce for literally nothing because the fentanyl was what they wanted to get in. So that's a double whammy to the growers of the agriculture folks in America by undercutting, the prices by a massive amount, but also, on top of that, bringing fentanyl in, which is destroying our country.
Without a doubt.
And so we got, big problems, and let's just tie this in and help people understand historically how opioids and fentanyl, derivatives of opium and synthetics of opium, have been used to destroy societies, civilizations, or to at least sicken them to allow certain groups to be able to take over trade routes. So like, the
opium wars in China back when the British did that shit.
Yeah. And we know who was really behind that and taking over the Silk Road, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Silk
East
Road
India
trade.
Trading Company. Yeah.
Yep. So we know who those people really were. They can say England all they want, but we know who they were.
The IFCs, baby, the international financial cartels, baby. Old money, black nobility, whatever you want to call it, old money.
Yeah. So the fentanyl and the opioid crisis and all that sort of stuff is by design, and that people can go back. It takes a lot of digging, but the Boston Tea Party, look up what year that took place, and that they were not dumping tea into the Boston Harbor.
Oh no! What were they dumping, champ?
They were dumping opium into the Boston Harbor because they were trying to poison our country and take over that way by drugging everyone into oblivion. And here we are, fast forward to 2025, and 70% of Americans are on pharmaceutical products, and many over 50%.
So wait a minute, you're telling me that was not about a tax on tea?
Not at all. It's all
that was
bullshit.
about. I've kind of heard that in the breeze and in the wind, but I never really drilled down on it. And I think maybe you would talk to me about it, but I'd like to hear more about that. Honestly, we need to get a guest or somebody. I want to look up more about that, because that's
and I want
shit.
Americans to do. Anybody that hears this, I want them to do massive amounts of research and find the history of opium, what went on in China, who was responsible for that really, and the taking over of the Silk Road, the route of trade, creating monetary systems along that route and in those regions, and then the Boston Tea Party and dumping of the opium into the Boston Harbor, all that sort of stuff that was going on back then, and who's responsible for running the organizations and allowing the opiates to come into our country, the fentanyl, the opiates, all these different drugs to literally destroy our nation, right? So,
and you're seeing remnants of it today. We've talked about it so much on the show, that Belt and Road that China's doing, which is kind of reminiscent of the Silk Road. You see a lot of very similar stuff happening along these trade routes, the land routes, the rail routes, the maritime routes, which is called the String of Pearls. And you look at a lot of the conflict you see going on today. I mean, it's along that String of Pearls route, up into the Suez Canal, stuff going on in Sudan. I mean, in Africa and Myanmar, and it's just the Kashmir region. I mean, a lot of these conflicts you're seeing are where China's trying to set up shop. So I mean, it's all organized crime again, and I think everyone's trying to vie for their piece of the pie. As this, like I said, with China being the model and this globalist system and technocratic system being set up, everyone's vying for their chunk of the pie.
Well, yeah, and Americans are being destroyed.
The leaders
in the
are,
process, right?
Yes. And like you said, I mean, they don't mind botting millions to fulfill a larger agenda, ladies and gentlemen. Don't think for 1 second, from whether it's Gulf of Tonkin, 9/11, sinking of the Maine, Pearl Harbor, you name it, they do not mind bodying their own people to fulfill their larger agenda. And believe me, the fentanyl thing, I mean, you're talking about almost double the total kills in Vietnam each year for the last several years. Almost 100,000 people dying from fentanyl in this country
a year.
Yeah, I mean, that's next level.
So
next level.
This is the, and not to get too deep, but let's be honest about pharmacia that's mentioned in the Bible, right? And it's listed under sorcery and witchcraft, using magical spells, what you call the dark arts, Jeff, right?
Or alchemy, yeah.
Occult practices, all of these different things. People can look that up in the Bible, and it says clearly, it's the use of drugs, sorcery and witchcraft, all this other stuff to destabilize nations, peoples, civilizations, and take them over, destroy them, gut them, rob them, pillage them, and then move on. Right? So we'll just say that the next target for the parasitic class that I call them, that they are, is China. So they're almost done with us, and they're almost done with Western Europe, and now they're going to move on to China. And that's where they're going to.
Well, and I think
I would say the people of the world need to wake up and the people of China need to wake up. The people of Russia, people of America, Western Europe, South America. That look, we've been infiltrated so severely by the parasitic class. It's unbelievable.
Well, and like I said, going back to our conversation with General Flynn, and I had, having him on, I was like, man, I'm so stoked to ask him about, we fall for this nation state versus nation state, very WWE, when in fact the Vince McMahon of the world, almost the head of the oligarchs, is setting this stuff up, like Wall Street and the rise of Hitler, like you said earlier, funding both sides, etc. I think, China, going back to, supposed Henry Kissinger's role in opening up China with Nixon, there's a clip here. If you go to that podcast network, Conspiracy Farm, it's called Conspiracy Farm Extra. And it's a little clip of Henry Kissinger basically saying, almost invoking the Grand Chessboard, which was written by Zbigniew Brzezinski, there is a shift taking place from a unipolar world order and with the kind of United States hegemony to a multipolar world order. And the power is shifting from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And he says in this clip, countries, including the United States, are going to have to make decisions on what their role is going to be in this new multipolar world order. That's what I'm saying. I don't think any of this stuff is by accident. And again, we get caught up in nation state versus nation state, when in fact, I think this playbook was written a long, long time ago. And we're just seeing the machinations and the iterations play out, nation state versus nation state.
Yeah, that's to create the bad guys, the good guys and the bad guys.
Absolutely, heel versus babyface, professional wrestling style. When at the end of the day, it's globalism, it's technocracy, that's what they've been planning for a hot minute. And of course, it takes a long time for it to manifest because they slowly have to, boiling frog and rock us to sleep. Because we're the land of the free, home of the brave. You're not just going to come in and just take us over like that. But it's slowly happening.
Yeah, well, throughout history, right? Over and over.
Well, and just like you said, it's been ideological subversion. Yuri Bezmenov talked about it. This has been going on for freaking years.
Well, and the thing is through our observation, you and I have talked a million times about this, and watching people fall for all of it over and over again throughout history, and then watching it develop and slow roll into what it's become today with, all the different components that have gone into this. And I just look at, I just sit there and say, they're doing it again, and you're falling for it again. I can't quite figure out how people aren't at least going, hey, wait a minute.
Well, and that assumes people have had that kind of frame of reference. Like I was saying in our previous episode, you and I aren't necessarily clairvoyants. We've just been fans of history and geopolitics. So we see these patterns develop. Going back to what you just said about the Silk Road, almost the same things happening with the Belt and Road with China. And so it's not a matter of just like, we're so super cool. We just have seen these patterns and these things manifest throughout history. And most people, and again, I've said this many times, it's a testament to certain people's humanity that they can't see necessarily the larger picture or how dark this shit can be. You know what I mean? Because most people don't marinate in that kind of shit. Not to say whatever. It's just
right.
You and I and people who are fans of this kind of stuff have frames of reference, and we've studied history a little bit. So we see when certain things start happening, like, oh, this is reminiscent of enter the name of, historical precedent.
Sure. Well, and the people that are celebrating today based on a new Democratic governor or Republican or whatever got elected in your state, and you're all, oh, happy day.
Yeah.
That person is an actor, and that they are a slave, and they're told what to do, and there is literally at that level from governor up, I don't think that there's they don't have any independence to make decisions based on morality or any of that. So
again, invoking the late Rosa Quarry, she talked about Agenda 21. It is a globalist agenda manifested locally. So, like you just alluded to, man, like they've touched everybody. It's because it is a global plan. There's almost, I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody.
It just comes down to money. It comes down to, listen.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And that goes back to like the Interstate Commerce Act back in, I think it was Eisenhower. Like, hey, we want to build this road through your state. Like, no, you don't want that? Okay, you're not getting X amount of federal dollars.
Sure. And
that's been going on, like blackmailing states. The state of Missouri, which I'm in, gets over half of their budget from the federal government. Guess who's bitch? Missouri ain't running shit.
Right.
We are the federal government's bitch. That's like most of these states who are getting compromised and blackmailed by federal money that you don't want to lose out on.
Well, and during COVID, you go to states, you go to counties, you go to universities, you go to churches, you go to tribal, Indian tribe leadership, you go to big church leadership, Roman Catholic, Baptist, on down the list, and all these government, you want your money, you want your COVID money, you want your free money
Yes.
that we're printing, you're going to need to, like the universities, we need 85% people vaccinated. NCAA, if we're going to give your athletic department the money that you need, you're going to need 85% of your athletes vaccinated. And you're going to have to do this. And then the churches and all the pastors.
I mean, going back to 9/11, all that money that Homeland Security was doling out, you want your traffic camera or the traffic cams, or
right.
We need these things in your state and in your city. Oh no, okay, well there goes that X amount of tens of millions or whatever the fuck it is. But the blackmail's just been going on forever.
Sure, and now they've got the FLIR cameras everywhere. I mean, everywhere. The license plate reading, the facial recognition,
yes,
all of it. Those cameras are being installed all across America. So I would say, for whatever it's worth and figure it out on your own, if you want to walk around in society and not have those cameras recognize who you are, there's clothing that you have to wear. There's probably glasses. There's probably masks. We know that there's masks that you can wear. We know that you can put your cell phone in a container that, not even those can pick up, that are enclosed, not just
well, even if it's not like street cameras. You had Hegseth come out and a very well produced, I think, on the White House lawn about all this new drone army they're going to be launching. So these fucking things are going to be everywhere. And then you enter your, I forget his name, but the guy, the Gilead, or after that Minnesota shooting, the Gilead or Gilead software, I forget what the fuck it was, the pre-crime shit, and then Larry Allison, and I forget the other guy, Peter Thiel, that whole crew, all that AI stuff, man, they're just going to be tagging and bagging everybody, at least watching anyway.
We're here to arrest you because you thought badly about the leadership of the government.
I didn't like what you said in episode 200 of the Conspiracy Farm, so per the NDAA, we can indefinitely detain you and potentially assassinate your black ass. It's crazy.
Yes. Well, look, we know who took over this country a long time ago. So, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that Americans are fighting amongst themselves. And now, all the tariffs that are hurting the farmers and, the manipulation that goes on, the back and forth, the SNAP benefits not going out to cause fear and trauma.
All a part of the chaos they want, baby.
Again, it's all about freeing yourself from the systems. For all those poor people out there, I don't give a shit. Gather your money up, go out and buy some seeds and learn how to grow food and start a community garden and teach your kids how to grow food. Everybody out there needs to learn how to grow food and turn every yard, I don't care, every school, every project, every prison, all the green soil or all the soil out there with green grass growing should be turned into food forests and gardens and orchards and grow food everywhere, because then you'll free your fellow man, period.
That's a whole fact. That's a whole fact. Get on it, ladies and gentlemen, because the more you rely on external forces to keep your shit going, we're about to see for 42 plus million people how that turns out. I get it. Some people need that stuff, and I'm not saying it's a valuable program, but a lot of people are abusing it, and a lot of people are about to get a serious belt to ass on not having those skills of self-sufficiency.
Yeah. And here's the thing: we're hard on government all the time. There's a massive number of good people within the government. It's the systems that are causing the problem. And here's the thing: we also recognize that while Americans understand that the government is huge, it's bloated, it survives just to feed itself in many ways right now, that a lot of those people have already lost their jobs to AI.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
With more coming.
And many, many more in the private sector have lost their jobs. And it's going to continue if you continue to take part in it. So it's not about creating a parallel system. It's about recreating the real systems that have always existed, right?
When, as Catherine Austin Fitz called it, kind of like a breakaway civilization.
No. We put them in fucking lifeboats and push them off, dude. The people that want the digital ID and all that shit. No, you want fake food, you got fake money, you got fake everything. You got fake healthcare, you got fake.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. If they want to do it, go ahead. Get it how the fuck you live it. Go away. We have this new breakaway civilization over here that's self-sufficient, that's not beholden.
Right. Yep. And so
but I think, like most people say, and I think we're just too comfortable, man. I don't know what it's going to take, and I don't wish harm on any human being.
It's going to take a lot of pain.
It is definitely going to take some gnarly, nasty shit before we turn this thing around.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
not unlike, that's not unlike history, though. The rise and fall of civilizations have come many times, and it has manifested in different ways. And again, we're not going to save everybody, but, the more aware you are of the threat, the better you are at surviving the potential calamity to come.
Yes. Well, Jeff, I love you. We've covered a lot today. I just, again, we know that there's going to be some pain. We've got some things to go through. It's going to get ugly. And I don't think there's anybody out there that would argue that fact. Besides Trump with the golden era bullshit. But I think it's time for Americans to go, you know what? I'm apolitical. Or what, I'm just not taking part. I just,
right.
Enjoy.
It's almost like going back to, I don't, when I was a kid, I loved wrestling. I read Tommy Wildfire Rich. Oh my God, he's going to beat the fuck out of whomever, Roddy Piper. But like, I don't watch wrestling anymore because I know Vince is running, or whomever, Triple H is running it. You just don't watch it anymore with the same kind of like give a fuck of like, I want this person to really win. Same thing with politics, same thing with geopolitics. Once you recognize that this is engineered and it's all a fucking show and that the world is a stage, not to say stop giving a fuck about it, pay attention to it, but don't invest so much of your time and energy where you invest in one side or the other, because it is a uniparty running everything. While we sit here and scrap about, red, blue, Crip blood. It's really that simple, dude. It's that Pepsi fucking challenge, Coke or Pepsi. And we're really willing to go to blows over the fact that you drink Pepsi when I think Coke's the shit. That's almost really what the fuck's going on right now.
It's all, it's all emotional. It's all emotional programming. And so just don't bite on it anymore. Remove yourself from it as much as you can, and stand up for your children, because all those people out there that are, gung ho and, we're going to go after these people and we're going to go after those people. And when your guy gets in office, then you can, oppress the other side. Yes. Just remember the coin is going to flip again, and it's going to go back the other way. And at some point, the tip doesn't come back. The pendulum won't come back. It's going to keep going, and it's going to get really painful. So if you have children, you better put the brakes on. And just step away and just focus on your health, focus on your kids, focus on their health, focus on the reality of what's taking place, and annex yourself from the systems as quickly as possible.
To quote a line from the great movie War Games with Matthew Broderick from the 1980s season, the best way to win is not to play. Get about that system. Get about.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Buddy.
Thank you. Jeff, take us away.
Absolutely. Faithful farmers, peace and so much love. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. Week 2. Oh my gosh, we are on a roll. See you next week, guys.